Should you buy the SpaceX IPO? More than 4,000 people and families are projected to become millionaires on June 12th, this Friday. And this might just be one of the biggest wealth transfers or gainers of wealth, and maybe losers of wealth, but really gainers of wealth, potentially in human history. It has the potential to generate the most wealth for US families and people in US history or world history. And in today's video, I'm going to answer the question for you guys. Should you buy, or what should you consider about buying or taking part of this SpaceX IPO? Now, if you follow all the hype, all you're hearing is we're going to make a ton of money or the whole stock market's going to crash, because both scenarios aren't necessarily possible. Well, they're both possible, but we'll dive into it. But the biggest thing is you might actually be losing out on a huge opportunity if you don't know what's actually happening. So yes, SpaceX is IPOing, meaning they are going public on the NASDAQ on June 12th, this Friday. If you're already watching this video, if it's already happened and you're watching this video, SpaceX, you obviously know it's happened. It's gone public. So let's do a quick recap of it, and then we're going to drive straight into the analysis. Now, this video, I will be able to give you a full rundown on and help you understand, yes, I should buy it, no, I shouldn't buy it, and what the options are, the cost-benefit analysis, without doing a deep dive on the market analysis. About half of you guys are going to say, well, we need to do a full market analysis to be able to understand. I promise you guys, if you watch the next 3 or 4 minutes, you're not going to need to do that. And for those of you that are like, what even is a market analysis? I'm going to tell you basically everything you need to know, because the numbers are ridiculous. I'm not going to tell you if they're good or bad ridiculous yet, but we're going to dive into it. So what's actually happening? SpaceX, a company that Elon Musk started that is responsible for lots of the Falcon Heavy, the Falcon, and just all the space missions that we've been working on, is going public. Now, this also includes X, formerly Twitter, and XAI, which is the AI kind of research that is happening under the arm of X. And most importantly, this includes Starlink, which is a big portion of the revenue that they are reporting in this sale. Now, this is a public offering that is offering up a portion of the shares within the SpaceX umbrella. It's not all of the shares in the SpaceX umbrella, but it's a portion of the sales in the SpaceX umbrella to raise money, because they are bleeding money right now. It also helps all the people and investors that have been part of SpaceX have a chance to liquidate their earnings or their accumulated stock or ownership. So if you invest in SpaceX, you put your money in, you need to be able to get it out eventually. And if you work for SpaceX and part of your compensation package is stock, or RSUs, restricted stock units, this is the first time that you've actually been able to use those. We'll get into that later, because that's an important thing to consider here. So I'm going to get the handy dandy phone out and tell you the only numbers that you really need to know when you're making this decision. So if you want to take part on the SpaceX IPO, what you have to do, and I'm not telling you to do this, what you would have to do is you have to go through the broker. It could be Fidelity, it could be your retirement, it could be Robinhood, and you have to register interest in being part of the IPO. That doesn't guarantee how many shares you're going to get. It doesn't guarantee anything. Each brokerage is a little bit different, but that's where you're going to start to get shares. And then you might be kind of like randomly selected, or a certain amount of shares might get allocated. You're not entirely sure how many you're going to get, if you're going to get any at all. And then on IPO day, which is on Friday, you're going to get a certain amount of those shares at a valuation. The current target price of those shares is $135. That can obviously fluctuate. Stock prices on IPO days tend to pop, meaning the second they are kind of IPO'd, they jump, or the IPO price before the IPO jumps, and that's a deeper consideration. But target price is $135 per share, with the total share value, with the total amount of shares at that valuation, they're valuing SpaceX at $1.75 trillion. So they're saying that SpaceX, Starlink, X, and XAI is worth $1.75 trillion. Now, you and I don't have a feeling on what that actually means, because in reality, none of us can even conceptualize what $1.75 trillion actually means. Let me start breaking this down further so you can understand. What does $1.7 trillion mean? $1.7 trillion is the amount of revenue that SpaceX brought in 2025 times 100. It is literally 100 times the revenue they brought in 2025. That's not the profit. That is 100 times the revenue that they brought in. That is also, if you look at the projected numbers for 2026, meaning if they close out the year with their current projected revenue, it is 40 to 50 times the amount that they will make in 2026. With that said, though, I should mention, that sounds like it's a worthy thing, they are more negative, meaning they've lost more money in 2026 already than they've lost in 2020, and than they lost in all of 2025. So they're actually less profitable this year by a lot, meaning they're not profitable at all. In 2025, SpaceX posted a negative profit, meaning they lost money, of $4.94 billion, meaning they may have made a certain amount of billions in revenue, to lead to that 100x valuation at 1.75 trillion, but they lost almost $5 billion, meaning there was no registered profit. Here's the crazy thing. In Q1, which is quarter one, which is January through the end of March of 2026, they've posted a negative loss of $4.26 billion, which means that in one quarter of 2026, they have nearly registered as much loss than the entirety of 2025. The revenue has gone up mostly because of Starlink. Starlink represents the vast majority of total revenue, but they've lost a lot of money. Here's where it gets scarier. If you go to all of the leading market analysis experts, the fair valuation at an aggressive PE ratio, meaning you're already leveraging a multiplier of how much they have the potential to grow and earn to some like huge multiplier, meaning like when we buy Tesla or we buy Nvidia or we buy AMD, we're not paying for their actual value in their stock. We're paying for their actual value times some crazy multiplier that represents what we think and predict the stock will do in the future. With that same predictive future, meaning we're going to invest in something and it's already baked into the price that it's going to 50x in the next 100 years or something ridiculous, most people are predicting a fair market stock value of between $50 and $65 a share. We know it's going to IPO at 135, or it's projected to IPO at 135, which means at the very minimum, we are 2 to 2.5, let's just say, less bullish on this, at least at its current price than most other people. It's considerably 2 to 2.5 times too expensive. And I'm not saying that that's its fair market. I'm saying that the risky buy is in that $50 to $65 a share range. At $135 a share, it's that risky buy times 2 in terms of your risk. Now, this might sound like I'm telling you it's going to lose money. I don't necessarily think that's necessarily true. In the current market that we're in, where there's so much uncertainty and people are looking for areas to put their money and invest in hyper growth assets, we might have a huge retail boom. We're also in an instance where there's a lot more cash available in non-retail investors, meaning big investment firms and big funds have a lot more cash available. This could be an opportunity for them to buy and hold for the long term. A lot of people see SpaceX as the future of space exploration and space travel and basically the usage of what is outside our atmosphere. That might not have returns in the next 5 years, but in the next 20 years, that could have incredible returns. And a lot of people see it that way. So the likelihood is, in the short term, we're probably going to see this IPO go up. It may also go down. We just don't know. And in terms of predictive markets, usually we have a pretty good idea. Is it going to go like this? Is it going to then come back down? Is it going to go like this? Is it going to stay flat? We have some concept of, it should follow this. This is the biggest IPO that's ever been registered. Nothing has ever done this. This is touching a scale that we don't know. To some degree, this would technically be listed on the S&P 500 if it could get immediately listed, which means that it could affect your 401ks. It's not going to. I think that there are some rules in place that there is going to be delay periods, but the size that this is IPOing would mean that it could have a tangible effect on regular traded ETFs, where it could affect a lot of Americans' 401ks, and that's what's hitting the news a lot. Let's take one step further back. So you've just heard a lot of pros and you've heard a lot of negatives, and the negatives sound pretty negative right now. I'm going to take the negatives one step further so you're a little bit more educated. This is the part that I'm scared about. 4,000 plus Americans who work or are part of the SpaceX bubble are going to be minted millionaires on Friday, meaning that they will instantly become millionaires. They may be close already, and many of them might become tens of millions of millionaires. Here's the problem. All of those people, including retail investors, have had all that money locked up in something that they couldn't sell. In some of these cases, for a long time. These are, when you think about the people, right, these are families that have been getting 20, 30, 40, 50% of their income in these stocks that they can never cash in on. All of a sudden, they have a means of selling those. They have a means of taking some of that money out and using what they should have been getting, a salary and other things, for all the hard work that they've been doing. What would you do in that instance? You're going to sell a little bit of it. Are you going to sell all of it? No. Are some of them going to sell all of it? Yeah. They don't want to be part of this volatility, even if it's going to go way high up or something like that. Let's say vice versa. You're an investor. You've put a huge amount of money into SpaceX and it's been locked up forever and all these things are happening, but you can't access it. What's going to happen when all of a sudden you can access it? You're going to take part of your investment, maybe your initial investment, out. Or you're going to say, this was great. I returned 20 to 1 on my investment. I'm going to take it all out and go to the next thing because my leveraged results are going to be better as I invest in startups than they are if I invest in what is now a blue chip, possibly blue chip stock where, we're going to have this exponential growth. And I know Tesla broke this model, but as things get bigger, they slow. There's a market cap. There's only so much money in the world, in the US. These companies can't just go infinite forever. You could make a lot of money, but when you start thinking about funds, one, they can't just put all their money into Tesla or Nvidia, the same way they can't put all their money in SpaceX. They can only allocate a small portion of that. And then that means the implied volatility will drop. A lot of other things define that. So another scary thing is there's incentive for a lot of the owners of existing shares of SpaceX to sell. Does that mean the stock's going to go down? Absolutely not. There's probably more people that are interested in buying. So here's the problem. The two things you have to weigh. Do you buy into the it's overvalued and people are going to liquidate their shares and the volatility in the first year is going to be scary and that's a place that you can make money? That's kind of where I am, but I'm doing it. I plan to do it in a smart way. My current plan is just to wait. I'm not buying into the IPO, but obviously I'm not giving financial advice. Or on the other side, do you believe in this side of things that says people want to be part of this so bad that we're going to see exponential growth in the stock? And I think that this is not, it's not like 70% this way, 30% this way, right? I think that there's a real chance that this stock IPOs and goes 200%. You know, it booms and it stays like that for months. That's real. Could happen. People, retail investors like you and mine could make a killing. You could make as much as 10 years return. You don't know. I think the odds of that are relatively high. If I was betting on something, I'd bet on this. If you said, where would you put $1 million if you had $1 million that you could be very risky with, and you couldn't play the game of shorting, which is something that I'm thinking about right now, and you were looking at all the blue chip stocks, with the way that the market's been going for the last 6 months, I'd really be thinking about making a big gamble on SpaceX. So I think it can go one or two ways. And one way, as an investor, you have to be very skilled, right? Like if I'm planning on shorting it, you could have unlimited losses, meaning you could lose all your money. So you have to balance that. And I'm not going to just short it at IPO. There have to be certain conditions. I might end up buying. If the IPO goes like this, I'm buying and taking that risk on this side, but I'm waiting for it to come down. I'm just taking a breath once this IPOs. If it goes like this, I'm going to put in a long short position once shorts become available. Shorts won't be available, or options trading won't be available immediately. It's going to take 3 to 6 days, I think, before options become available. That's the current, buzz, but food for thought. So hopefully that gave you some information. I don't think you need to do any deeper analysis. Obviously what I said is brief, but those are the big things. You could look into their books. I read this stock disclosure. I read the disclosure for the filings. It's like 170 pages. There's a lot of information in there, but you can boil it down to the few things that we talked about now. There's a lot of people with shares that haven't been able to access the money for a long time. The valuation is some crazy factor of the Elon Musk multiplier. It's Elon Musk, so we're multiplying it by 10. And it's clear that they need cash and people want to realize gains. But they are desperate for cash because they're losing money and they're burning it. With that said, they are going to change the world. But the question is, how fast are they going to change the world? And are you willing to wait with them, buy in now, and potentially go like this for the next 10 or 15 years? I can't answer that for you, but this is all the information you need to know. You can dive into every analysis, but the thing is because this company isn't public, no matter what direction you go into numerical analysis, people have to make assumptions. Every set of assumptions is different, and every set of assumptions is a guess based on the things that I just talked about, and that's why I think this is a qualitative discussion and choice and not a quantitative discussion, because you cannot make a quantitative decision here. You can only make a qualitative decision, and that's what also makes this a unique buying opportunity or selling opportunity, shorting opportunity, or just a unique opportunity to watch with some popcorn on the sidelines. I'll see you guys in the next video, and don't forget to subscribe.